Hi everybody, Creative Crafts here, and it's Kat. If you're new here, hello, and if you're one of my subscribers, welcome back. Love to see you all. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe on the button below and press that little bell if you would like to have notifications whenever I post out a video. Today's video is going to be about fall and Halloween. So the biggest thing is we're going to be making this pumpkin. It's going to take a few steps with it, so bear with me. It's hard as a rock, as you can see, and it's very sturdy, and it's made from paper clay and paper mache. The three ingredients you would need is a plastic bag, any size, whatever size you want, like I have here. I have this big recycle bag that I use. You need newspaper, some tape, some kind of a yarn or a string, and of course you need the paper mache glue that you're going to be using. And I suggest you use wallpaper paste. You definitely need to use the plastic bag, because the plastic bag helps, you can pull that out easier from the form once you're done doing all the work you need to do, especially with the clay. You need to keep the form in there until it's totally hard and dry. Then you can pull it out. But I suggest you get that, because if you use a cloth bag or you put too much tape around it, when you try to pull this out, it could make it cave in or break or make it more unstable. I suggest you use the bag, because the bag will come right off. It peels right off easily from the inside. So the second tip is never use the glossy newspaper for the paper mache when you use it. For the inside, you can use this, the glossy paper, but never use the glossy paper for when you make the paper clay or paper mache, because it doesn't stick onto the areas where it should because of the gloss. So that's a tip number 2. So what we need to do now is you need to rip up the paper, put it in a little ball. If you don't know how, this is what you need to do. And you need to fill up your bag as much as you want, and you have to make sure it's nice and compact, that it's stable. Because once you put the paper mache onto the form, it could cave in, and you don't want that. So make sure it's really, the newspaper is compact inside the plastic bag. And what's so good about this, because you use the plastic bag, once you open the bottom up, you can reuse this newspaper you're doing now for the next project. If you make another pumpkin, or if you use it for filling. So this is the great thing. You just keep reusing it, and you recycle it, and it's not creating any garbage, which what recycling is all about. Try to save our environment and filling everything up correctly. Like I said, it takes time to fill this all up. So my pretties, I will fill my bag up and make it nice. When I get close to the part where it needs to be compact, like I said, I'll be back when this is nice and compact, so that I can show you what I mean compact, how full it needs to be. Wait on me, and I'll be right back. So everybody, this is not compact. So what you need to do is squish it down and try to make a round form out of it as much as possible. You see how much that paper spread down, very nice and small. So, I just made a hole in my bag with my nails. That's fine. I will stick some kind of a tape on it that has like a gloss on it, which will be easier to pull out after that if you make a hole like in it. But this is what you really have to do. You have to compact it very well. This is pretty small, so I'm going to open this back up and add some more newspaper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this electrical tape, because it's like a gloss film on it, and cover that hole that I just made, well, I made earlier, so that it'll be much easier to, so it doesn't get wet inside, because you don't want it to get wet inside. And now I also want to tape these two bottoms like this, so it makes like a round form. So you take the two ends of the bag and you use some kind of electrical tape like I have here, fold it in, and it should stick fine. You know, like you see here. So you can see that it's kind of making the form that I want now. It's kind of like rounded. This is what we want. So this is the bottom part of my pumpkin that I'm doing. You can make it smaller. It doesn't have to be bigger because I'm making two different sizes. So I'm going to show you both. But now I'm going to fill this up a little bit more so I can pretty much fill it up. And then I'm going to make the form like the one that this pumpkin here that you see here. So now you're just going to wait until I fill this up. And once I'm done doing this, I will show you what you need, how the consistency of the paste that you're going to use, how thick it needs to be for it to actually glue and stick better. So stay tuned and watch further. So here's the next step, people, is mixing the wallpaper paste for the glue for the paper mache. If you want to use the old traditional one with the flour mix, go right ahead. I wouldn't do that because even though they say flour and salt together don't mold, if you have a very moist area where you live, it can still mold. So I suggest you would use this instead. So what I'm going to do now is first I'm going to add some water, the first half a liter. And I'm just going to mix it with my little mixer here. Any utensils that you use for mixing stuff like this, never use again in the kitchen. I have all kinds of utensils here just for this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix as I pour, because if you don't, it's going to clump up and you don't want that. So just keep mixing until you have the whole box inside, and then you can add some more water after that. So now you add the other half a liter. Then you add more. It takes some time to do this because you don't want to just throw the whole box inside right away, because you'll get these huge ass clumps. So now it's getting pretty thick already, so I need to get some more water. So now here's the other half a liter, and just keep mixing. It's going to be messy, so like I said, make sure you work in a room where it's okay to be messy. If you're going to work in a place where like a nice table or something is, make sure you cover it with plastic. So mix it well, and then you get the last liter, because I'm only going to put it on it's pretty thick already, as you can see. So you're going to need maybe 1 more liter. If you're working with small children, make sure that you use mixture that is non-toxic. I have no small children here anymore. I just have my dog, and he basically almost never comes in this room, so only when my husband is home. And when my husband is at home, I don't do these things, so because usually it's at night. So it's still pretty thick, so I can put the rest. And this is, you can add more. You can put 8 liters of water in this if you want. So if you don't know what 8 liters is, you can always go on Google and look it up, and it'll tell you how many gallons it is. So you're going to let this sit. For at least 5 to 10 minutes. It looks pretty good. There's no huge clumps, which that's what I was looking for. So let it sit, and if it looks too thick to you, where that you can actually stick your hand in and then it makes a foam when you pull it out, then it's still too thick. You can add some more water. When that is done, we can go to the next step. So now everybody, the next step is cutting or ripping the newspaper. So I changed my bucket, and I decided that I remember the last time I did this, I actually did the bottom part first because it's the heaviest. So I put the paper mache only on that first, filled it up several times, and then once that dries, I can flip it up, and then I can do the top part. And then after you do that several times, you have at least 3 or 4 layers. After it's completely dry, that's when you actually take a pencil or a pen or a marker and make the form of the eyes or the mouth, the nose if you want. Mine, this one that I did before didn't have a nose, so I made the form out of the clay. So now how you rip the newspaper is, to be honest with you, I don't like using scissors. The only time I use the scissors is when I cut this, not that, sorry, wrong piece. When we cut these ends off where it folds, I usually cut that off first. And I use this for the paper mache clay. I just put it aside, put it in my machine, snipe it up, all good. So the best thing for you to do is, gotta remember how I did this. Let's do it this way. If you rip the newspaper where the seam is, you may say, what? Yeah, all paper has a seam. So what you need to do is rip this in half. I wouldn't cut it because ripping it leaves these little gatches on the side, which helps it glue better. So what I would suggest you to do if you want is first rip it in half if you want. Or cut it, because ripping it in this direction doesn't work. You'll just get one big crooked piece. So I would just take a new and cut it like that. And then this is the easy part. It just rip a little bit and then put it aside. Rip, put it aside. See, this is what I love about when you use, you can make them this big, you can make them as big as you want. It doesn't have to be, don't use this whole piece because you need it in strips. So, and this is what basically like I like to do most of the time. And I try to keep it even, not even, ordinary, nice and neat, because it's no fun when the newspaper is not neat. So what you try to do is keep it all. I had a basket one time full with these, but my husband kept putting, that's not what I want to do. My husband kept putting the newspaper on top of it, so I'm just going to make some new ones. You're going to need a lot of this, so I suggest you to make sure you get all that you could. If you've never worked with paper mache, don't worry, can't do anything really wrong with it. I think right now that should be enough for the top. So this is what we're going to be using for this. So now is like you take your form. You see it all there. And now it doesn't look like much right now, but it will look better as we go to the next step. So now I'm going to stand up on this one. So what you need to do is, it's going to take a while before you actually say, oh, now it's starting to look like a pumpkin. You take the paper, I use my hand and I put it on both sides of the glue. And what I do is I make sure both sides are wet. And then first what I do is make sure I put some on the top. It may be flimsy at first, but that's because it's hasn't hardened yet. But the first layer is always a little bit difficult. Not too difficult, but just make sure you put enough glue on it. And like with me, it's so warm outside. When I'm done with this, I can take that bucket and stick it on my porch. And then tomorrow when the sun comes out, that thing will be completely dry so that I can go to the next step. But in the winter, it'll be a little difficult because then I'll have to put it next to the heater. So this is what you do. You just take the paste and put it on your hand. It's not going to do anything to your hand, so don't panic about it. If the form of the pumpkin doesn't come out like the way you want it, don't worry. You can always fix it when we go to the paper clay pot step. So this is what you're going to do through the whole bottom of the pumpkin. Just cover it up. Even though you have some on it already now, what I would suggest you to do is at least 2 or 3 layers all at once. Go around once. Go down as far as you can, like I do here. Make sure it's stuck on it correctly. Like you see here. Make sure they're all sticking together. Like I told you, the first layer is always the hard one because that's the layer that needs to get hard before you actually start forming the pumpkin the way you really want it. So just go all the way around, and like I suggest, see how the bag lifts up. Once you put many layers of this paper on it, you can actually form it after you have all those layers on it. Right now you can't really do much with it, because you have to make sure you have several layers on it first. Like this. Sometimes after a while my hands is so wet from the paste that I can actually use it twice. One box of the paste you probably need only. I doubt you need more. I mean, you can try to make more and use that whole 4 liters. I like to keep mine a little thicker, because the thinner it is, it doesn't stick to the newspaper very well. So as you can see what I did here, after you do this whole pumpkin to here, you go start up the top again and go down. You do this 3 to 4 times, and then you set it aside to dry. And then you can go to the next step. So here, everybody, is the next step, of course. I mean, it's not totally hard, but I want to do the top part now to show you. So what all you need to do is take it out from the bucket you were using, and there you go. You have this. It may be a little bit of flibby flobby, or flipsity, topsity, whatever you want to call it. But this is, now, like I said, don't worry about what it looks like at first, because you can fix it a little bit later. Once the paper clay is on there, it's going to be a little bit more stable. Excuse me, like this one. So what you need to do is get your paper. I don't think this is going to be enough, but I have more there that I can cut up. So first comes first. Make sure you stir your paste that you made before you start using it again. And then, as always, like I told you before, you take some, put it in your hand. You can see that it got kind of stuck before. Make sure you put plenty of glue on both sides. And then start where the newspaper is and go up. I'll show you in a minute. Like this. Like this. This is what you want to do. Go like that first. And then the second coat, you will go like this, not like this. Make sure you fill it up pretty good. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the first time, putting up the newspaper with the paper mache, it's going to look a little flimsy. That's normal. So grab like a newspaper piece that you think may fit the stump, and then just keep going around. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to form it out later. Just fill this up like this. Keep turning it and turning it and turning it. And then form it with your finger how you want it. You can cut the tip off later. And then take a small piece of newspaper, rip it in half, and then do the ends. So you know that the ends is covered also, like this, like I'm doing right there, as you can see. It's always nice to make sure that the bottom part is dried first before you do the top, because of the fact the bottom is usually heavier. So you don't want to put that there. So now we got that done. We're going to go around again, but this time, I'll show you, we're going to go in a different direction, because you don't want the newspaper, like I said before, all in the same direction. So what you do now is we're going this way around. Like this. So get this done. Go all the way around twice, let it dry, and then do it twice again, let it dry, and twice again and let it dry. If you're in a hurry, you can put 6 layers in one time, but it would probably sink in, and you don't want that. You want to put the layers in slowly. If you want to have a great looking pumpkin, do things slowly. Don't do everything too crazy and too fast. So everybody, this is the thing is finished with the paper mache. This is what you need to do. I would suggest to put as much as you can. I'm going to put at least 10 layers on my pumpkin, so it's really sturdy and then pretty thick, because you need it thick, especially when you make the pumpkin's eyes and nose and mouth. You need to carve it out, and you need to make sure that it's not paper thin. So make it as thick as you want. I'm going to make mine a little bit more thicker. I'm going to add some more paper mache. Once this is done, I'm going to add some more on the bottom, a couple more layers, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the top. And then we can go to the next step, which is making the paper clay. I have a video on my video section of it, how to do it, but I will do this video a little bit different. I will add a different recipe this time. And then we can go on to the next step. Sorry people, it will be multiple videos because of the fact it does take time to make these. And I wanted to make sure I put all the details and all the tips that I can tell you what you need to do. So the best tips is while I'm talking and while I'm doing it. So if you really want to know what all the tips are, just keep watching the whole video, and here you'll hear hinted there in between the video everywhere that what tips are good for what you need to do to make the perfect pumpkin display. This was my first try. But I've been making Halloween stuff for, I don't know, 20 years probably. Anyway, like I said, this needs to dry, and then I'll see you in the next step. Hi everybody, it's now the end of the video. I know this is just the first part of it, and you're saying, oh, I want to go further, but you gotta wait anyway until that is dry. So the next video is going to be making the paper clay and then carving out the face of the pumpkin. The most important thing to do is make sure you have enough coats on it so that it's strong, that it's not denting in. Mine here is denting in a little bit. Maybe it's because it's wet here. But I'm just going to try to just put some more on it just so I know that it's stable. That's very important that you make it stable before you carve out the eyes and face. It's very important, like I said on this video already. So it's the end of the video, like I said. And if you would like, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. I will post the links below. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up. Would very, very much appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.